You're in your apartment bathroom, hand damp over the sink, holding the fresh bar of soap in its paper wrap while the old one has collapsed into a thin, slippery shard. You pause. Your thumb catches the edge of the paper, then stops. There is a tiny recoil in you at the thought of breaking it open. So you rub the shard between your palms instead, and feel that odd little satisfaction when it lasts one more day. The feeling is plain enough. You do not want to open the new soap, even though you need it. You tell yourself it is thrift, habit, clutter, indecision, maybe just one more private, irrational quirk. It is not random. It is not a personality defect. It is an old planning response shaped by seasonal uncertainty, when using something now could leave nothing later. The pattern is delayed use planning, and it still runs inside stocked homes where replacement is easy. The price is already being paid, not in neatness, but in comfort, ease, and your ability to use what you already own. This response comes from a world built around uncertain replacement. Through seasonal uncertainty, resupply could disappear for long stretches, and a reserve was the difference between safety and exposure. So the mind learned a simple rule. Stretch what is open. Protect what is intact. Let the backup remain a backup for as long as possible. That rule sits deep. It is part of ordinary human inheritance, not a private glitch sealed inside your own habits. Nearly everyone watching carries some version of it, because the pressure that shaped it was not rare and not personal. It was broad enough to leave a mark in the species, and quiet enough that it can still feel like common sense. So your hand stalls over a bar of soap, and the pause feels reasonable, even while the sink says otherwise. The wrapped bar beside you is proof of a planning system older than the apartment bathroom. Nothing about that little hesitation was designed for this room. Now put the soap down and walk into your kitchen at night. The cabinet is full enough. There is food in the fridge, extras pushed to the back, another pack behind the first. And still there can be a strange restraint at the moment of opening, a small tightening in the hand as if starting the next one has crossed some invisible line. That is the important part. The response is live. It does not sit in the past like a fossil idea. It enters an ordinary room and keeps doing what it was built to do. It tries to preserve margin. It tries to keep one thing untouched while another is still barely usable. It keeps treating reserve as safety, even when the store is close and the shelves are full. You can feel it in the split second before the seal breaks. Not panic, not drama, just resistance. A friction so small it passes for practicality, even while it keeps steering you away from the easier choice sitting right in front of you. And abundance does not shut it off. The extras remain visible, the need remains small, and the restraint still arrives on time. Your body is carrying a rule that expects the future to close without warning. To understand why, you have to step back into the seasons that built it. Now the year narrows. Green months end. The ground hardens. Herds shift their routes. Edible plants vanish back into bark, roots, and memory. A group does not need one lucky day to survive this. It needs stores that outlast the gap when nothing fresh appears. That changes the meaning of every usable thing. Dried food is not just food. It is days held still. Fuel is not just warmth. It is night, then another night. Hides, fibers, binding material, lamp fuel, the edge on a simple tool, all of it has to be paced, because a worn item cannot be replaced on command when cold settles in and movement gets harder. If stores are used too freely before the season turns, the penalty is not inconvenience. It is hunger, dark, wet skin, frozen hands, smoke gone from the shelter. So the response that mattered was not comfort first. It was margin first. Leave the backup intact. Stretch the opened one. Make the current piece last. Safety came from seeing reserve still there, untouched and waiting, because an empty future was real and it arrived on schedule. Groups that held things back through the lean stretch kept heat longer, kept coverings longer, kept food inside reach longer. The response paid for itself. You still carry that pacing in your hands. You feel it in the small resistance before you start the next thing, and the old rule behind it is plain. The mind learned to trust what remains sealed more than the relief of using it. And sometimes That rule is still exactly right. The weather turns, power drops, the rooms go dark, and the house changes shape in a minute. Heat fades, outlets die, water stops feeling guaranteed. In that moment, the person who kept spare batteries, candles, and stored water has something more than supplies. They have steadiness. The old response earns that steadiness early. It kept those batteries unused. It left the candles unburned. It protected a margin against interruption, and when the interruption finally arrives, the reserve becomes immediate safety. Light returns to one room. A flashlight works on the first click. There is water set aside before pipes or pumps become a problem. Backup is not fantasy there. It is the difference between scrambling and already having enough to begin. That is why the response survives. It is not a defect. It still matches a world where storms, outages, and sudden breaks can cut off ordinary replacement for a while. The untouched item still has a job. You can feel your body settle when the backup is real and reachable. Shoulders drop. Breathing loosens. A sealed reserve still changes the nervous system before it changes the room. That part remains true. But then, the lights are on, the street is open, the store is running, and the same response lands in a room that does not need it. You reach for a frayed towel after a shower while a clean new one stays folded in the closet. The safe condition is obvious. Your hand still goes to the worn one first. In another room, a fresh notebook sits in its wrap on the desk. You need a blank page. Still, there is a pause at the corner, a small pullback in the fingers, as if opening it spends more than paper. The seal stays closed. The old pad with bent pages keeps getting used. Then the same thing happens with a candle during an ordinary evening. Nothing is wrong. You want the light, the smell, the little ease of it. But the first strike of the match feels expensive, so the candle remains intact, and the dimmer room becomes acceptable instead. You feel the pattern in tiny muscular checks, in the brief relief of leaving the backup untouched. The ancient gap in replacement is gone. The body still behaves as if every opening shortens the future. So you cook dinner and reach past the sealed bottle of good olive oil to tip the last thin stream from the cheap one. Your hand pauses over the better bottle first. Then it withdraws. Breaking the cap feels like reducing a reserve, and the first pour carries a small sting of loss out of all proportion to dinner. The food is fine. The cost is elsewhere. A better thing you already own stays unavailable, and a simple choice turns into friction. The same rule follows you into the bedroom closet. Fresh sheets sit stacked. An extra blanket is folded on the shelf. On the bed, the fitted sheet has gone rough. The corners pull loose. The fabric has that tired feel against your legs. Still, there is relief in seeing the replacements remain untouched, so the night stays slightly less comfortable than it needs to be. Nothing dramatic. Just repeated surrender of ease, one ordinary use at a time. Then it spreads into the small duplicates modern rooms are full of. A new tube of hand cream waits while you scrape the old one flat. A backup razor stays boxed while the dull one drags. Bulk packs, refills, sealed extras, duplicates in the cabinet, replacements under the sink. The trigger keeps appearing because the untouched backup is always visible. Once an item is mentally marked as reserve, entering it feels harder than owning it. You feel it as a tightening in the fingers, then a tiny release when the backup stays intact. That release is real. So is the cost. Present comfort keeps losing to protected margin, even when the margin is already more than enough. At a warehouse store, the cart fills with extras. Twin packs, refill pouches, spare blades, another stack of paper goods. You leave with more security than any season ever offered, and that is exactly why the response keeps firing. It does not count what is enough. It reads the presence of reserve itself. An unopened backup says safety. Using it says the reserve has become smaller. That is the mismatch that kept hanging in the air. So knowing the store is open tomorrow does not settle anything. The body is answering a cue, not a reasoned argument. Every duplicate on a shelf, every bulk pack in a closet, every sealed replacement under a sink keeps restating the same message. Protect this. Delay entry. Keep one more thing intact. Modern restocking does not erase the trigger. It multiplies it. You try the obvious fix. You tell yourself to just use the better one. You twist the cap anyway. The resistance still arrives before the motion. You buy fewer backups, and then the remaining backup feels even more charged. You hide extras in a drawer, and the relief drops for a day, until the next sealed item appears in another room. The world keeps supplying the cue faster than willpower can remove it. That is why the pattern feels so stubborn. It is not only inside you, it is built into stocked living. You keep meeting intact supplies in every room, and each one quietly invites the same old restraint. You feel that when your hand finally opens something useful, and, instead of simple ease, your chest takes the hit first. The reserve is smaller now. The room is still full. You are getting ready for bed and stop at the closet again. Clean sheets. Extra blankets. A sealed bottle of lotion on the top shelf. The worn set is still on the mattress. The half-empty bottle is still on the nightstand. The room is full of relief that could begin now, and the pause arrives before each first use like a toll booth on comfort. Then the full cost comes into view. This response can turn having into not using. The backup starts to matter more than the relief it was meant to deliver. So minor deprivation stays in service on purpose. Rough fabric against skin, dry hands from the nearly finished bottle, dull blades, inferior ingredients, intact items waiting beside them. The old protection has moved into the wrong world and become part of the discomfort itself. Other forces can add weight to it. Price matters. Upbringing matters. Habit matters. But the deeper pull is older and simpler. Safety still feels tied to reserve. That is why the guilt lands at first use. That is why postponement repeats. That is why abundance can leave daily life feeling slightly rationed from the inside. Tens of thousands of years. Routine replenishment on demand is extremely recent. A large share of what you own can slide into this split, where one version is for now and the better version is for later that never quite arrives. The result is visible. Unopened backups. Worn items still working. Small denials stacked across rooms. You feel it in the instant the seal breaks and your body answers with loss before relief. Then you live with the strange afterimage of a stocked room that still teaches restraint, and the count keeps growing in silence. Long before year-round replacement, human life ran under recurring seasonal pressure.